Hi, I'm Tony Zen, a product manager on the Microsoft Dynamics 365 Virtual Agent for Customer Service offering. And what I'd like to do in this video today is show you how you can use Microsoft Flow to really extend the capabilities of your virtual agent and do things like connect to your back office systems, wrap that in an API, connect to your CRM instance to create case logs, anything like that that you can do with Microsoft Flow. So to start, go ahead and sign into your virtual agent. Once you do so, I want you to navigate to Microsoft Flow, and there's a couple ways you can do this. You can always just create another browser window and go to flow.microsoft.com, or you can use the helpful waffle icon here and click on Flow as well. So let's go ahead and open this in a new tab so I can switch back and forth between Flow and my virtual agent. When you land here, a couple things to watch out for. First, make sure you're in the right environment. So you can see I have a couple environments here. But the key here is to make sure that you're creating your flows in the same environment as your virtual agent. So in this case, I'm selecting the default environment here. And if I navigate back to my virtual agent, I can just check to make sure that this is the same environment that I'm in. And you can see I'm in this Contoso default environment, so this is the correct environment. Now that I've got the correct environment selected, the next thing to do is make sure that you're in the Solutions section of Flow. So in Flow, you'll look down here. After the data line, you'll see the Solutions area. Make sure you click on that. And then as this comes up, what you're going to do is you're going to go in and create your flow directly in a solution here. So I've got a solution here that I started called Sample Flows. Let's click here. And now I don't have any flows in here yet, so I can go ahead and create a flow from scratch. So let me go ahead and actually create a very simple flow that just personalizes the greeting message by asking the user's name and then responding back with hello username, right? And so again, this is a little bit of a trivial example, but once you have this down, it basically covers all the same things you would need to do in any other more complex flow. So once I create a flow here, I'm presented with some choices to pick a different type of trigger to start. And what I'm going to look for here is an HTTP request trigger. And so here you can see this is actually the one I want. I want this one that says when an HTTP request is received. And so let's go ahead and click that. And now I'm presented with the JSON body schema. The easiest way that I've found to do this is actually to use the sample payload option down here. And just go ahead and enter in a sample payload. And so let's say this is name. And let's say I use the name Tony. This will actually dynamically generate the correct schema for me, which makes it a lot easier for me to do this. The next thing I want to do here is I want to take that name. So let's say the user types in Tony and responds to the virtual agent that way. I want to return back hello Tony. So the way for me to do this is actually to click on New Step. And now I'm going to create a variable. So let me look up variable. And I'm looking for one that says initialize variable, and here it is. So once I click on this, I can now define a variable. So let's say this is my return name. And this is actually a string type. And in this case, what I wanted to do is I wanted to just say hello and then greet me. And so you can see here I've got my dynamic content that pops open automatically. I can click on the name. That's the information that came in from the previous node here. And I would just add in an exclamation mark. Now, once I do this, I'm actually ready to return this information back to my virtual agent. So to finish this off, I will use a HTTP response node. So again, look up response. And this time I see it here. So it's this one. So what I want to do here is I actually want to use two different pieces. So first off, I want to enter something into the body, which is I want to make sure that I return the variable in the right schema. So let's say this is my personalized name. And then I go ahead and enter in the variable that I created earlier, which is this return name one. You can see that it's in purple, which is the one that I defined above, which should say hello username. And then the other thing you want to do is make sure you expand the show advanced options part here. And again, just like above, let's go ahead and use a sample payload to generate the schema. So if you click here, I'm going to name this personalized name. And again, type in a sample, hello Tony. And now that I do this, it'll create the schema for me. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually defining the input and outputs that will happen from this flow. The other thing I could do here is create a user-friendly name. So let's say this is my personal greeting. And once this is done, I can see that I don't have any errors in the flow checker, so that's great. Let me go ahead and save this. So as this saves, we'll give it a second. And now once it finishes, what I will be able to do is I will be able to go back to my virtual agent, create a dialog, and actually invoke this flow directly from dialog. So it's saved now. One thing I can also do here is, let me click this back arrow, and I can see more information about this flow. You can see nothing has been run yet. I can also see that it's on, and this is very important to check, because if you need to come back to this flow later to edit it, the first thing you'll have to do is come back to this page here, and then before you click edit, you'll need to make sure you first turn the flow off before you're allowed to edit it. Otherwise, what will happen is, as you go to try to save your edits, it'll actually give you an error. But then once you are done with your edits, you need to come back here and make sure you flip the flow back on, or else it won't be able to run correctly in your virtual agent. So this is one of those gotchas that you need to be careful of. So in this case, this flow is done. So let's go back to the virtual agent here. And what I will do is, let's actually go ahead and customize our greeting. And let's use this personalized greeting instead. And so here, let's go ahead and replace this by asking them what their name is. So what is your name? And this time I'm going to save it down to a variable, as was seen as one of the earlier videos. So I'll go ahead and say this. Now I don't need to do any routing off of this, so let's just create a variable, which is my name. And now I'm going to call, I don't need this yet, and I don't need this. So let's go ahead and delete those. And then I will call the flow that I just created. So there it is. Once I do that, what I can do is I can select the variable. And so this is the flow I just created, and I can go ahead and try this out now. And let's make sure it returns properly. So I've passed it my name, and then it's returning back my personalized name. And let's just actually play that out to make sure it works properly. So again, if I create a bot says, I can then click here and I can actually return my personalized name. And that's it. So now let's actually save this. And then now that that has saved, let's go ahead and push the content into the test bot and try it out. And so I will just go ahead and greet the bot so that I can trigger this greeting topic. And you can see it's starting to run now. Again, it's going through the standard dialogues here, and now we've come to the part that I've customized, which is now the bot is waiting for me to type in my name. So let's say my name is Tony. It should now come back, invoke the flow, and then return hello Tony. So let's see if that actually works. Great, you can see it does, and it actually returned back the variable, and the virtual agent dynamically substituted the value of the variable into the message itself, so it says hello Tony. The other thing we can do now is let's actually go back to flow here, and when we do, if we refresh this page here, we should see that there's a successful run, and that was the one that just happened that we got when we tried out our virtual agent. So I hope that was helpful. Hope that was a useful overview of how to create a simple flow. Obviously, you can start to use this and create any number of customized flows that do all kinds of sophisticated things. And so that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching this video.